We have been living in our RV for 6 years now. The first year we were stationary while we wrapped up getting rid of all the things that were in our sticks and bricks of 30 years. And 5 years of traveling, full-time living in our RV. We have a 33-foot Class A motorhome. It is a Fleetwood Excursion. And so recently we shared a video on how much do we spend last year in 2023. And we'll put a link below and it'll be up here somewhere also. So in our last video, I shared the importance of having some wiggle room in your schedule in case of emergency. A vet emergency, tooth emergency, or a rig emergency. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. Travel styles and how to build in that wiggle room. So I have a question for you. Whether you've been RVing or you're thinking of RVing, what is your travel style? Have you thought about it? Some RVers are simply stationary. They stay on their own land, or they are in an RV park or at a family member's house, and that's where they live and stay in their RV. Some people are snowbirds, and they are up north at their home base or visiting kids or somewhere else during the summer, and in the wintertime they come to Florida or somewhere in the south. I say Florida because we're in Florida and we know snowbirds for many, many years. And we laugh because now we are snowbirds. There are also those who travel for work, such as nurses and construction workers. There are those who live and travel in their RV like we do. Or maybe weekend travelers. Sometimes educators will take off for the summer or when they're on break. And, you know, if you have certain times of the year off, anyone who has a block of time off, they're back and forth. So part-time RVers, I guess we could call them. Many RVers boondock. And that means they are staying somewhere in the woods on BLM land or national park land. And there are usually no amenities there, and they're running off their own self-contained RV. In those boondocking places, usually you can camp for free. And that's what caught my attention in the beginning when we were first considering RV life. Back to that in a minute. One of the things to consider when you're thinking about RV life is, what kind of lifestyle do you want? Are you going all in and selling and getting rid of everything? Are you planning on driving all day and then spending the night somewhere and getting up and traveling all day the next day? Headed to a destination, such as a certain part of the country or a national park. Maybe the destination is your goal, and as quick as you can get there, you want to get there. Are you going to follow the 333 travel style or the 222 travel style or others? More about those in a minute. Or are you going to be one of those who park on your own land and you're stationary there for a little while? Maybe you're waiting to build a house. A lot of RVers do that. Or maybe you're living in an RV park stationary. There's benefits to that too. Or are you planning on staying on that BLM land and moving only when necessary? When you have to. Or will it be a mix of these? You may be researching options right now. So we started off thinking that we would be boondockers. That really appealed to us. We're planning on being retired. And when you're looking at a great income cut such as that, it was a little bit earth-shattering, and we're like, well, we can go live for free on BLM land. And so that was the direction that we started in, but we realized the unit that we got is very low profile, and even though we chose a 33-foot motorhome that could fit in most places, it still limited us in a lot of places, especially here on the East Coast, that you could boondock and some national forests. Now, out west, it is wide open. I don't think it matters what you have. However, for us, we kind of fell into a different lifestyle than we thought we would have. We have boondocked, and we did enjoy it, but we also like being connected. So one of the reasons we did go with something less than 35 feet is in our research, we discovered that to get into state parks and a lot of national parks, you want something a little bit on the smaller size. Now, you can get into many parks with larger rigs, but you will be limited. So sometimes there's only a handful of spaces available for larger rigs. We have even found that to be true for our size rig. And although we typically do not have a problem, there has been a couple of times that either we can't get in at all because we are too big, or there's only a few sites that we can fit in. So take that into consideration. Your size rig does matter. if you are planning on doing the boondock thing or going to some state parks and national parks. So in the beginning, take some time to think about these things. What are you going to do with your sticks and bricks if you own it? What your travel style or your RV lifestyle is going to be will determine the RV rig that you choose. And you'll need to take that into consideration, as we did when we chose an RV rig less than 35 feet. It will also depend on your tow vehicle that you'll need, or your towing vehicle, your truck, or whatever you need to pull your pull behind, if that's what you're looking for. It will determine your RV budget. Obviously, if you boondock more, you will save more money. Boondock, mooch dock, lot dock, those type of things. If you travel fast and cover a lot of area, well, you're going to be spending more money on fuel. So there's a lot of considerations. If you travel slow, then you will spend less money on fuel. You'll spend the same number of days on the campgrounds if you're staying in campgrounds all these time, because 100 days is still 100 days. But if you are traveling far and fast, it's going to cost a lot more money in fuel. So take your time. Plan out those travel days so you have a buffer in between, and slow down and enjoy the ride. Then if you do have any kind of mishap, you have some days built in, you have some time built in to take care of it. So stationary RVers can take advantage of seasonal rates or monthly rates, and often those will be cheaper, but not always. So do your homework, shop around. I know here in Florida, many of these parks they have ramped their fees up to more than it would cost you to rent a full home. And it's because of their location and because of the demand and because they can. So be selective in doing that. You can find reasonably priced RV parks that you can stay at for a month or longer. And the longer you stay, I think it's even cheaper. The longest we've stayed is 1 month. And we did enjoy that, because when you stay a month somewhere or a little bit longer, you get a chance to really explore the area. And we loved being close to the Gulf of Mexico and being able to go bike riding and hiking and fishing every day, and not just for, the week or the 2 weeks that we would normally have been there. But keep in mind also, if you do decide to do a monthly or seasonal stay at an RV park, you will be charged extra for electricity, and there may be other fees that you are charged for. So just do your homework and know about that. Usually if you stay more than a week, you're going to be charged for electricity. So that'll be an additional expense tacked on to your campground fee, to your RV park fee. And another cool thing about that is because a lot of people do that, they'll return to the same park every year, and there's a sense of community there. We were staying at a park in Arizona, and they were getting ready for the snowbirds to come, and it was exciting because they're like, oh, so-and-so does this, and so-and-so, oh, that's so-and-so's place. And, everybody was looking forward. They started trickling in. We got to meet some of the regulars before we left. We were there for a couple of weeks, but not the month. And so that's kind of cool to have that sense of community, even though you are traveling. Now, if you're thinking about boondocking, if that's attractive to you, as it was to us in the beginning, just know that if you're on the East Coast, it's going to be a little bit more of a challenge. It is doable, but it is not as easy as it is out west. Out west, it is wide open, spacious. Size of your rig is not going to be a huge factor, but here on the East Coast, things are a lot tighter, and there's a lot more population areas, a lot more urban areas, so it's hard to find a place. They are there. So it doesn't matter. You can still find places to boondock if that's what you're looking for. People do it, and there's all kinds of videos out there telling you where to go. Now, if you are okay with a day here and a day there, or a little bit of time, you might want to consider Harvest Host. And Harvest Host is a club that you can join, and in their network of campgrounds, it might be farms or wineries or something along those lines, and you can stay a day or two. It's for self-contained RVs, although I do believe that some of them might have amenities, but the expectation is that you are self-contained. You join with your membership, and then you get to camp for free when you were there. There is a suggestion that you purchase something or you kind of give back for having that option. But people love that. I know there was some RVers that they stayed in an alpaca farm. If you go to a winery where you want to buy, some wine. If you go to a brewery, you want to buy some beer. So it's a way of giving back. But meanwhile, you have camping in some of these cool places. So the Harvest Host plans range from $99 to $179 a year, and there are discounts for joining. So just check the website and check them out. Now, we were members of Harvest Host, and we never used them because I like to plan ahead. And the places that we were traveling to, I could not plan ahead. And you could only stay 1 or 2 nights, which I think might be the norm, but I don't know. If you're a member of Harvest Host, drop it down below. But it just never was close to where we were traveling, so it didn't make sense to go way out of our way. And I already had our stays planned because I'm a planner and I do not like to be caught without a place to stay. Now, many people wing it, and so that might be ideal for them. They might have a plan A, plan B, plan C. So if they can't get in here, they'll get in here. So usually you can find a place to stay for a night or 2. But as you'll see, we like to stay longer than a night or 2 or 3 here and there. We like a little bit of time in an area between our travels, and that also builds in wiggle room. Also, there's Boondockers Welcome. Boondockers Welcome, it is part of Harvest Host Company, I do believe, and they kind of operate the same way. They have properties that you can stay at. These people join, private property owners join Boondockers Welcome, and they have a place for you to stay. And so that's another option. And I believe they have to be self-contained as well, and there is a fee for joining that. So the membership cost is $79 yearly for Boondockers Welcome, and it provides members unlimited access to stay at the host locations. There are longer stays available there, and RVers must be self-contained during the duration of their stay. So, you got to think about, where am I going to dump? If you don't have a composting toilet, that you may have some limitations or have to have a honey wagon come out. I don't know. I'm sure that we're not members, so I don't know all the details there, but according to the website, that's what they say. Self-contained during the duration of your stay. So be willing to dry camp, in other words. And discounts are available for this membership too. Now, there's other places that you can stay for free. You may have heard Walmart. Walmart is one of them. Cabela's, Cracker Barrel. And all of these places, too, it would be nice to go in and buy some groceries or supplies. And we find that Cracker Barrel, we never have a problem giving back because we might visit them for dinner and for breakfast. But it's called lot docking. And so when you're lot docking, remember, you're not camping. One night is respectful. We're not putting our slides out unless that's the only way you can move around and putting the jacks down. You are just pulling in to park overnight and not putting everything out and being responsible lot docker. And that's one of the reasons why Walmarts are starting to shut down people. I know at our local Walmart here, no longer can RVs park there because there was a bunch of RVs that were just parking there for days and days and days, or probably longer. And also some businesses have experienced the sewage being dumped out in the parking lots. So as long as we are respectful and we follow whatever guidelines, then we should not have any problem. Just call ahead. Always call ahead and make sure, even if your app says you can overnight there, you want to call ahead and double check, because sometimes the county or city zoning does not allow it. So just double check. There are Cracker Barrels. We've experienced Cracker Barrels that are just too tight and they do not have parking, but most of them do. And they're always, yeah, sure, come on. Cabela's and Cracker Barrel are two great ones. There's a lot of them. So there are apps that will show you overnight parking. We use RV Trip Wizard, and I can set my filter in there and look for overnight parking and plot to go there. Another way you can camp for free is mooch docking, and it exactly is how it sounds. You're mooching off of friends or family, parking in their driveway. And again, usually this is going to be dry camping. You're going to be in your self-contained RV unless they have some way for you to hook up. So a lot of people do that. Just keep in mind that some cities or counties may have ordinances against you even doing that, or how long you could do that. And a lot of places don't care. So just keep that in mind. You don't want to set up, well, I'm going to go stay a month at my mom's in her yard, and 2 days in we get a knock from zoning and saying we have to move, and I don't have a plan. So just double check to make sure that that's okay. Okay, now we get to the traveling RVers, which is what we are. And whether you be a snowbird who is going from area to area or bouncing from kid to kid to kid, or like us, and we do both. We do all of those things, and we're traveling full time, going and seeing the United States of America, going to see the kids, and also back down here to Florida. But we do have family down here, and we are Florida residents. So one thing to keep in mind, traveling RVers. I know that I've read and listened to a lot of YouTube videos and read articles that one common mistake that beginning full-time RVers make is they try to go too far, too fast, because they're excited to see everything, and that can kind of lead to burnout, overwhelm. It costs a lot more money to travel very far, very fast. So keep that in mind. You may be exhausted, and if you are planning on this lifestyle for a number of years, as my husband and I plan to do, then we don't have to see it all in 1 year. Slow down and take your time and enjoy the places. There's many places that we went to that first year out, even though I feel like we were going slowly, that I would have liked to explored more. So we didn't get to do that. We were, we went from Florida to Oregon, and we stayed some time in Colorado, but there's more we would have liked to see. So, but we have other years to do that. So we even went a little further and faster in our first year out, even though we thought we were going slow. So keep that in mind. Slow down, enjoy the ride. Now, you may have heard of the travel styles such as 222, 333, 444. What does all that mean? Well, it's quite simple. It's some guidelines, and I like to think of them more as guidelines than rules. But 222, for example, is driving no more than 200 miles, stopping by 2 p.m., and staying at least 2 nights so that you have a full day to enjoy the area or to recuperate. So that's 222. 200 miles, arrive before 2, and stay 2 nights. The next one, 333, you could probably guess what that is. No more than 300 miles, arrive by 3 p.m., and stay 3 nights. So you have time to explore and enjoy the area. Now, I will say arriving earlier in the day is very helpful because you almost feel like you get an extra day. When we were weekend RVers back in the day when we were working, we would have to drive all day, get to the campground, often at night. So I will always have sympathy for people who arrive at night. Get set up, and then go all day Saturday, and then Sunday, pack up and drive back home for hours. Been there, done that. But if you're living in your RV full time, then you can just take it easy. Get there early. Enjoy. Do a little bit of exploring before, the next day even. Or rest up. And keep in mind, once you get to the park, it's going to take, even with all our push button setups that we have, just to get everything set back up may take an hour, because if in our motorhome we have to pull things down to bring the slide in and then put things back up. Maybe yours won't be that complicated, but sometimes it does take a minute, so you have to check in. Sometimes that can take a minute. So there's all these things that you have to do before, so getting there early is helpful. So the 444 rule, 400 miles, no more than 400 miles, arrive by 4 o'clock, and stay 4 days. Now, 400 miles is way out of our comfort zone for traveling. So I'll talk a little bit about how our travel style has evolved over the years. So all of these help prevent fatigue, burnout, overwhelm, and you don't have to follow any rules. You will develop your own, and you will develop your own guidelines, not rules, guidelines. You will develop your own, and you will see that it will change over time. And I can tell you, my travel style versus Gary's travel style is different. So our travel style has changed over the years. We started off traveling 200 miles, give or take, and staying 7 days if it's an Army Corps park or state park, 5 to 7 days, whatever we could get, 8, 9, 10, somewhere in that range. And then our private parks were at least 2 days or 3 days. So that's what we liked. So we could usually catch up on laundry because we would have full hookups, or, if there's an area to explore, we will take advantage of the weekly rate at a private park, or if we were near family. So that's how we started off. And we have tweaked it over the years to where we are now 150 miles is our sweet spot. So 150 or less. We really don't like to go over 150. And so on RV Trip Wizard, we can set our parameters to 50 miles, 100 miles, or 150 miles. And then we can just stay within that range. Then we get somewhere and we can relax and not be in a rush. Sometimes there's things that happen in the morning, and we also walk our dogs in the morning, and we don't want to get up at 6 a.m. and pack up and have to leave. Some people can do that and do that. That is not us. It is not our travel style. So we like to take it easy, have a nice drive. Sometimes you have to stop and buy fuel, and that's going to cost you, 30, 45 minutes for that stop. So there's lots of things to consider when you are developing your travel style. Another thing that you want to take into consideration is the time of year and the weather and the elevation. So that first year we were out, and I was like 200 miles, 200 miles, 200 miles. Well, we got out in the northwest of the United States of America, and there was some elevation there, and driving our regular distance was exhausting. It would take all day. It would double our time because motoring up and down mountains will slow you down. So I learned then to, okay, if we're in a mountainous area, I'm backing it way down. I'm backing it way down. In the wind, the same thing. We discovered that driving in the wind, it's very taxing for the driver to hold the RV and keep it straight while the wind is just hammering you. And once you go west of the Mississippi, in our opinion, you are going to experience that wind hitting you. So just buckle up. No, you don't want to drive when it's, too much. But on any given day, it seemed like there was wind. And the longer you have to drive, the more exhausting it can be. And then it's not enjoyable, because we want to do this to enjoy it, right? So manageable miles for you, for your comfort zone. It might not bother some people at all, but for us, we backed it down. Now our stops stayed the same. We basically will stay at a private park for 2 or 3 days, sometimes 4, or we go for the weekly rate. And we look, depending on what amenities are offered, 5, 6 to 10, 11, 12 days. So it just depends on the area that we want to explore. And Army Corps parks and state parks, national parks, those are the parks that we prefer. We have found some really nice city parks and county parks too along our travels. We prefer nature over RV resorts. So even if we don't have full hookups, a lot of places will only have electric only. We do try to get electric. We're okay with no sewer, and we are okay with no water. Sometimes you don't have a choice in some areas. So those are things to take into consideration too as you're planning your travels and your travel style. Just keep in mind, if you stay a week at a private park, usually there's a weekly rate available. I keep mentioning that, but I didn't say what it was. It varies, but usually it equates to one free night. So you stay 7 days, you pay for 6 nights. Usually. So we have boondocked, we have mooch docked, and we have lot docked. And in the beginning, I was really militant about that. If I spent more than I wanted to on a campground, I would book a set of Cracker Barrel so that we would it would balance out. But then we bought food, so it didn't really balance out. And now I'm much more relaxed about it. We do it as necessary as needed. Now, I mentioned that Gary and my travel style would be different. Well, I've driven our RV and it drives very easily, but until I was 100% confident with it, I would travel 50 miles a pop. That would be I've determined that that's my stress level, because that's the other thing. Are you an anxious driver? Do you get stressed out in traffic? I'm pretty chill normally, but if I'm driving this, I don't want to scratch it up or mess it up or anything like that. So I would back it down to 50 miles and stays would be about the same, but I would go 50 miles at a time. That would be my travel style. So, and that's okay. If you want to explore a state, that's great. We have had 30-mile and 50-mile hops, and it was great because we're still in the area exploring. So that might be something you want to consider, especially if you're new to driving your rig. So our tip is be flexible with your rules, with your guidelines, and switch them up. Yeah, we had to come back home for an emergency, and our rules went right out the door, and we drove all day, lot docked, drove all day, lot docked, drove all day. So if you have to do something like that, then that's okay. Be flexible. It's not cut in stone. You're out here having a good time. Take into consideration those curvy roads, elevation, weather, wind, those type things when you're planning. Like when we were planning 200 miles, not good in a mountainous area. So now I know. I back that down. We use RV Trip Wizard for planning our trips, and it provides so much information for you. Like I said, you're able to filter down and find those overnight parking areas. You can filter your campsites, and it will route you. It'll take your dimensions of your RV under consideration, so you can avoid overpasses that are too low for you. So it does a lot, and it is $65. It's subscription based, $65 a year, and they do have a 7-day free trial period that you can check it out. And if you want to buy it, you can use our code RUFFROAD at this time, RUFFROAD, RUFFROAD. I'll put a link below, and save 25% off that subscription. We went out the first year or half the first year without RV Trip Wizard, and then I purchased it, and what a game changer. And not only that, it records our trips every year. So we have our trips. That's how we keep track of our mileage and our campground costs, and that's how we keep track of how we know where we're going. And it's also good for plotting trips. And I might have a trip A, trip B, trip C when I'm planning the year's trips. So it has all that. I can archive the trips if I want. I can share them. It will give me turn-by-turn directions, and it will show me the elevation, so I know when we're going to be in a mountainous area and what the grades are. So a lot of good stuff there in RV Trip Wizard. Check it out. Go play around. Even on the beginning page, it has a couple of videos that you can watch to learn more. And like I was saying earlier, you can set up your driving radiuses there. You can do it by hour. Maybe you only want to drive 2 hours. So set up your driving radius based on maybe, say, 45 miles per hour average travel. So it's got a lot in it. It's a very useful tool. We do double check our routes with a trucking atlas just to make sure that we are going to be okay, so we don't rely 100% on one thing. We use Google, RV Trip Wizard, and a trucking atlas. So there you have some travel styles and some ideas on planning for your own travel style. So I have a question for you. What is your travel style, or what do you think your travel style will be? Drop it in the comments below and let us know. Let us know if you have any questions or any other trip planning topics that you would like us to share. And until next time, happy planning and happy traveling.